Alright, I never thought I'd end up here, spilling my guts on Reddit of all places. But honestly, after what just happened, I don't even know where else to turn. So, here I am, a 38-year-old guy who thought he had his life all figured out. My wife, let's call her Megan, and I had been together for 12 years. Married for 10. She was beautiful, smart, and yeah, I'll admit, a little too ambitious at times. But that's what I liked about her. We seemed like a great team on the outside. Our friends envied us. Hell, even I thought we were doing alright. Until about 3 months ago when things started to feel off. I'm not some paranoid guy, okay? I've never been the jealous type. Megan and I had our fights like any other couple, but it wasn't anything crazy. Then, out of nowhere, she started working late. Like really late. Work deadlines, she'd say, big projects coming up. I shrugged it off at first, thinking maybe she was just chasing that next promotion. I even joked about how we'd be rich in no time with her new salary, and she'd laugh it off too. But then the sex stopped. Not completely, but the excuses started piling up. I'm tired, it's been a long day, let's just cuddle. I bought into it. Figured she was genuinely exhausted, and honestly, I didn't push it. I thought maybe we were just in a slump. Every couple goes through that, right? Then came the phone. You know, how they say if your partner starts guarding their phone like it's the goddamn nuclear codes, something's up? Yeah. That. Megan became obsessed with her phone, taking it to the bathroom, turning it face down all the time, even forgetting it at work, which she never did before. I'd ask her what was going on, and she'd snap at me, saying I was being ridiculous and insecure. Insecure? This was coming from the woman who never used to go anywhere without asking me for my opinion on her outfits. Suddenly, I'm the bad guy for being curious why her phone's more important than spending time with me? Anyway, I knew something was off. I just didn't know how off yet. So, about a week after the whole phone thing started bothering me, I had one of those nights where I couldn't sleep. Megan was already passed out, snoring lightly like nothing was wrong in the world. But me? I was wide awake, staring at the ceiling, mind racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was up. Now, I know what you're thinking, and yeah, it was probably a bad idea, but I grabbed her phone. I didn't plan to snoop, I just wanted some peace of mind. I figured if I didn't find anything, I'd finally be able to sleep. But guess what? The universe had other plans. Her phone didn't have a password, she never thought I'd check, I guess. And there it was, right at the top of her messages, a thread with someone named Kyle. Now, I knew a Kyle from her office, but I had no idea they were texting each other late at night. So, I opened the conversation. It started out innocent enough, talking about work projects and deadlines. But as I scrolled up, the messages got different. Flirty. Playful. Then outright sexual. They were planning to meet up the next day at some hotel near her office. And the things they said, well, I'll spare you the details, but let's just say they weren't discussing spreadsheets. I sat there, holding her phone, reading everything, my heart pounding in my chest. It was like getting sucker punched in the gut. I wanted to wake her up right then and scream at her, but instead, I just sat there in disbelief, staring at the screen like it might suddenly tell me this was all a mistake. But it wasn't. Megan, my wife, was cheating on me with some asshole from her office. I put her phone back on the nightstand and laid there in bed, listening to her breathe, trying to figure out how the hell I was going to deal with this. Should I confront her right away? Wait until I had more proof? Call her out in front of everyone at work? I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't let her get away with it. The next morning, I decided I'd play it cool. I'd let her go off to her meeting with Kyle, and I'd follow them. The next day felt like it lasted 1,000 years. Megan went about her morning like it was any other day, smiling, giving me a quick kiss before she left for work, like she hadn't just spent the night texting her side piece. Meanwhile, I was barely holding it together, but I wasn't about to tip her off. I had a plan, and I needed to play it smart. I waited for her to leave, then grabbed my keys and followed her to the hotel she and Kyle had so cleverly chosen. It was a cheap, nondescript place. Just close enough to the office to make it convenient, but far enough away to keep it secret. At least, that's what they thought. I parked a few blocks away and waited. It didn't take long before I saw her pull in. And not 5 minutes later, Kyle's car rolled up next to hers. They both got out, laughing like they were headed to some kind of weekend getaway instead of a sleazy lunchtime hookup. I could feel my blood boiling as I watched them, but I forced myself to stay calm. If I went in there guns blazing, I'd just look like the crazy husband. No, I needed proof. I needed to catch them in the act. So, I waited until they disappeared inside the hotel. Then I walked in after them. I know what you're thinking, there's no way this could work, right? But luck was on my side that day. I walked up to the front desk, heart pounding, and put on my best helpless husband face. I told the guy behind the counter that my wife had accidentally taken my wallet into room 217, and I was in a bit of a rush. The guy didn't even hesitate. He handed me a spare key and wished me luck. I was shaking as I rode the elevator up to their room. Part of me wanted to back out, to just turn around and pretend this wasn't happening. But the other part, the part that had been betrayed, wanted blood. So, I kept going. When I reached the door to their room, I stood there for a moment, listening. I could hear them laughing inside, completely oblivious to the fact that their little rendezvous was about to blow up in their faces. I took a deep breath, slid the key into the lock, and pushed the door open. What I saw next, well, it was exactly what I expected. There they were, tangled up in each other, half-dressed, eyes wide as saucers the moment they saw me standing in the doorway. Megan screamed, trying to cover herself with the sheets, and Kyle, this grown-ass man, just sat there like a deer caught in headlights. For a second, no one moved. It was like time had stopped. Then, without saying a word, I pulled out my phone and started snapping pictures. The sound of the camera filled the room as they scrambled to hide, but it was too late. I had all the evidence I needed. Every last humiliating second of it. Megan started crying, begging me to stop, but I wasn't done yet. I wasn't going to let them walk away from this without feeling the full weight of their betrayal. With a smirk, I said, "Smile for the camera. You're both going to pay for this." And then I stormed out, leaving them to deal with the wreckage. I had my proof. Now it was time for revenge. When I left that hotel room, I felt like I had just detonated a bomb. The adrenaline was pumping through me so hard that my hands were shaking as I walked back to my car. I had the pictures, the proof I needed to completely destroy Megan and Kyle's little secret life. But the second I sat in the driver's seat, the rush started to fade, and reality hit me like a freight train. She was cheating on me. My wife, the woman I'd shared the last 12 years of my life with, was screwing some random guy from her office. And it wasn't some mistake or one-time thing. This had been going on for months, right under my nose. I don't know how long I sat there in the car, staring at nothing, feeling this hollow ache in my chest. It's funny how you can think you're prepared for something like this, but when it actually happens, it hits harder than you could have imagined. I was angry, furious. But mixed in with that anger was this overwhelming sadness that I couldn't shake. I started replaying the last few months in my head, wondering how I'd missed the signs. The late nights, the sudden distance between us, the way she'd brush me off like I didn't even matter anymore. It all made sense now, but back then? I'd convinced myself it was just a rough patch. I thought maybe we were both stressed, maybe we'd lost a bit of the spark, but I never thought she'd do this. There were moments when I wanted to just go home and scream at her, to ask her why she did it, to make her see what she had ruined. But what would that accomplish? She had already made her choice, and confronting her again wouldn't change that. She'd probably just cry some more, maybe beg me to forgive her, throw out some bullshit about how she didn't mean for it to happen. But none of that would matter because the trust was gone, and once that's broken, there's no putting it back together. The anger started to boil over again. I didn't just want to end things quietly, I wanted them to feel as humiliated as I did. I thought about all the ways I could make their lives hell. Destroy them at work. Ruin their relationships. I wasn't going to be the one left picking up the pieces while they moved on like nothing had happened. No, this was going to sting for them. Badly. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was Megan and Kyle in that hotel room, laughing behind my back. I felt sick, betrayed, but worst of all, I felt stupid. How had I let it get this far without seeing what was happening? By morning, my mind was made up. I wasn't going to just be another guy who got cheated on and slunk away quietly. I was going to make them pay for this, and I already knew exactly how. That's when I grabbed my phone and started sending those photos. With every message I sent, it felt like a small piece of the weight was lifting off my chest. First, I sent the photos to Megan's boss. He needed to know exactly what kind of employee she was, sneaking around on company time, using work as an excuse to carry on her little affair. I didn't bother with a long explanation. The pictures spoke for themselves. Then, I sent the same photos to Kyle's boss. After that, I forwarded them to Kyle's wife. She deserved to know what her husband was up to while he was working late. I sat there for a moment, staring at my phone, debating the next step. Part of me wanted to stop there, let the fallout take its natural course. But then I thought, why not go one step further? Megan's parents were always on my case about how lucky she was to have a good, stable husband. Well, let's see how they felt about their daughter now. I sent the pictures to them, too, along with a brief message explaining what she'd been up to. It felt cruel. But in that moment, I didn't care. Megan had shattered my trust, my heart, and everything I thought our life together was. So, I was done playing the nice guy. If she wanted to act like a lying, cheating bitch, then she could deal with the consequences. By mid-afternoon, the responses started pouring in. Megan's boss? Furious. Apparently, company policy didn't look too kindly on affairs that happened during work hours. She was suspended, pending an investigation. Kyle's boss? Same deal. Fired on the spot. Guess Kyle wasn't as indispensable as he thought. But the real kicker was Kyle's wife. I wasn't sure how she'd react, but the minute she saw those pictures, she called me. She was sobbing, completely blindsided by the whole thing. We talked for a while, piecing together what we knew, and it turned out their affair had been going on for months, maybe even longer. Like me, she had no clue until it all came crashing down. She thanked me for telling her, then said she was filing for divorce. Honestly, I couldn't blame her. As for Megan's parents? Radio silence. Not even a "we're sorry." I guess they were too embarrassed to face the truth about their precious daughter. By the end of the day, the satisfaction I thought I'd feel was complicated. Sure, I'd gotten my revenge. I'd wrecked their little fantasy world and made sure everyone knew what kind of people they were. But now, I was left sitting in the rubble of what used to be my life. And despite everything, a part of me still felt empty. Like something had been stolen from me that I'd never get back. I had a decision to make, though. Was I going to stay and try to pick up the pieces? Or was I going to cut my losses and move on? Filing for divorce seemed like the only real option. There was no coming back from what Megan had done, no repairing the damage. So, the next morning, I made the call to a divorce attorney. I wasn't going to waste any more time in a marriage that had been dead for months, if not years. Once I filed for divorce, it was like a switch flipped inside me. The anger, the bitterness, all of it began to subside. There was no more guessing, no more waiting for the other shoe to drop. Megan was officially out of my life, and I could finally move forward. Of course, the divorce process wasn't exactly smooth. Megan tried to play the victim as expected, crying about how it was just a mistake and she didn't mean for it to go this far. She even had the nerve to ask if we could go to counseling. I laughed in her face. Counseling? After months of lies and betrayal, after she'd destroyed the trust we'd built over 12 years, counseling wasn't even on the table. He didn't fare much better. His wife left him almost immediately, taking the kids and most of their savings. I heard from mutual acquaintances that he moved out of state not long after. Good riddance. Megan, on the other hand, tried to stick around. She was staying with her parents after losing her job, and I heard through the grapevine that they weren't exactly thrilled with her either. They didn't say much to me after I sent those pictures, but I could tell they were embarrassed, probably ashamed that their perfect daughters had messed up so badly. The thing is, once the dust settled, I realized that I didn't feel as victorious as I thought I would. Sure, I got my revenge. I ruined their reputations, destroyed their careers, and made sure the people closest to them knew exactly what they'd done. But in the end, it wasn't as satisfying as I'd imagined. I wasn't happy. I was just done. That's the thing no one tells you about betrayal. Once you've taken your revenge, once you've torn down everything the cheater built, you're still left with this emptiness. It's like there's a part of you that's been ripped out, and no amount of vengeance can fill that hole. But you know what? That's okay. I've come to terms with it. Megan made her choices, and now I'm making mine. The divorce went through without much of a fight, and I've already started focusing on my own life again. I got a new job, moved into a place that's just mine, and I'm slowly figuring out what my life looks like without her in it. Looking back, the biggest lesson I've learned is this: trust your instincts. If something feels off in your relationship, don't ignore it. Don't convince yourself that it's just a phase or that you're overthinking things. Because if you're anything like me, you'll end up wasting years of your life with someone who doesn't deserve you. So, if you're reading this and you've been in my shoes, take my advice. Walk away. Don't wait around for things to get better, because they won't. People like Megan don't change, and once they've betrayed you, there's no going back. There's better out there, and I'm not about to let one cheating wife convince me otherwise. It's not the fairy tale ending I thought I'd have, but at least it's honest. And for the first time in a long time, I feel free. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for watching my videos, sharing them, and supporting me along the way. Your views, comments, and likes are the driving force behind my passion to create captivating and unexpected stories. Every tale I share is more than just a plot. It's a journey of emotions, lessons, and reflections that we experience together. Your engagement brings life and soul to this channel. Thank you for sticking with me until the very end of each video, because the finale of every story is where the real impact lies. I promise to continue delivering twists and turns that surprise, inspire, and resonate with your hearts.